Turn up the volume and listen in. It's time for breakfast with Life Radio. Only Life Radio can make breakfast sound this good.
Like a bird on a tree.
Going forward helps New Brunswick with our education.
Well, it is a provincial, and we do provide funding for that. However, my daughter is a teacher. As a matter of fact, my daughter has a master's degree in counseling and guidance, coincidentally. And my daughter doesn't have a full-time job. So that's a problem that I think needs to be addressed, and that's where we're exporting our talent. We have young people here who have teaching degrees that are teaching overseas, that are teaching out west and up in northern Ontario. And it's for that very reason. You know, they go to university, we saddle them with debt that amounts to more than people's mortgage payments, and I know that because I'm a mortgage broker. And we can't give them full-time steady employment. That defies logic. Now, my daughter decided to get her master's degree because she said, you know, with a master's degree, it should secure me a full-time job. And it hasn't. You know, she's bounced around. 1 year she's in Bathurst, another year in Rexton. You know, last year she was in Sunny Corner, so that was nice. But yeah, they just bounce her all over the district, and the district is so large now that it's a challenge because she's got one wee one, my sweet baby Luca, will be 2 on the 20th, and she's due for our second grandbaby. So it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
Well, I think that we've covered education. We've talked about some of the lower prices. Now, one of the other big issues that people have, I find that I've been working with a lot of literacy groups, and they have new programs of helping people get from simple things like learning to run a cash register, learning to, not as necessarily up in their education, but getting to the place where they feel confident to go get a job and help fill the spots. And we have immigrants come to the city. So what is your policy on like the immigration and things like that, getting more people here to fill the jobs, or getting the people that aren't filling the jobs to that level of they can fill the jobs?
Right. Well, our policy on immigration is that it needs to be fair. You know, we have people walking across the borders and they're jumping the queue. And again, I know this from a personal perspective because our youngest daughter's boyfriend was here on a work visa from the Netherlands. 25-year-old young man, contributing to our economy, contributing to our society. He was volunteering, paying taxes. He had to have his own health insurance, so he wasn't a burden to our healthcare system. And he had applied. You typically have to apply a month ahead to have your visa extended. He applied 2 months ahead because he's just an attention to detail kind of guy. And 3 months after his visa expired, after putting pressure on to find out where we at, why can't I have an answer, why I haven't gotten an answer, 3 months later, he gets a letter with no explanation as to why, but he has to get out of the country in 3 days. He had 72 hours to get out of the country. They wouldn't extend his work visa. So here he flies to the Netherlands it's not cheap. He gets over there, and because now he's my daughter's boyfriend, he wants to come back. He wanted to stay to be a productive member anyway. So he did fly back in. About a week and a half later, was stopped at the border and told, you can't come in. But he had said, I talked to the ambassador, the Canadian ambassador in the Netherlands, and he said it's okay. So after an hour, they finally allowed him to stay for a month. And we put him on a plane 2 weeks ago today to go back to the Netherlands. So here's somebody, I don't see people lining up to immigrate to Miramichi, but here we have a young man with a job, contributing to our economy, and he's now in the Netherlands. And don't even get me started about Windley and Earl. I don't know if you're familiar with that story or not, but here's a young girl who has been adopted by a Canadian couple, and they've been fighting for years to get her here. Every day of her life, she's in danger, and we can't bring her to Canada. So our immigration has to be fair. People need to stop jumping the queue so that people can be treated fairly and in a timely manner. So that's what we want to bring forward is to make sure it's fair and equitable. The people that follow the rules need to be first in line.
Okay. Sounds like the straight up policy we're hearing right on the board, but I didn't hear it from the two personal sides. That was quite interesting.
Yeah.
So how do you feel? Do you feel that you're going to be being new to politics. What got you interested in politics in the
Not
first
really
place?
that new to politics. I was a city councilor for 4 years, and if anybody looks back at my record, I mean, I've got a record of being strong, and I stand up for my community. If it was wrong, it was wrong, and if it was the right decision, it's the decision I made, even if it was a tough decision. I knew when I was elected to council I was going to have to make tough decisions. There's always going to be somebody that's not happy with the decision you make, but at the end of the day, I get as much information as I can so I can make the best decision that I can. It's never lost on me. Every time I sat at the table, I knew that I was a taxpayer. Every decision I made affected my family, affected my neighbors, and affected my community. I'm a taxpayer like everybody else, but I'm trusted by the people who elected me to make good decisions for all of us. So that's how I attacked every decision that I made. And I have that experience on council for 4 years. I know how government works. I know how to get things done. I had a tall ship festival that they told me couldn't happen. It was the largest. It was the largest there ever was. For the first time in decades, we had a military ship here. They said it couldn't happen. All you have to do is tell me I can't do it.
Wow, that's good. So so you do have the experience then from that level and going into federal. What got you in? Was your family into politics when you were younger? Was there a reason why you decided, or you just wanted to change?
I saw things happening in the city, decisions that were being made that were not right, and I thought, I can't sit back and let that happen. So if I can be a voice and I can be a conduit of change, then I felt it was my responsibility to do so.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see from up here.